So after you've drawn your line etching on your plate and you have your first stage of your plate all ready to go, doesn't matter if it's aqua tint or etching, I'm going to walk you through the process to that you use to put this into the acid. So the first thing that you need to do, always when you're working around the acid, is make sure you have your gloves on, make sure you have your goggles on, because they look so good. So the one thing that you need to know is that this is a ferric chloride vertical tank, which means that we essentially have a strong salt in here that's rusting the heck out of the plate, and that's how we're etching and biting down into this copper plate. Only put copper into the ferric chloride. That's the only thing you're allowed to put in there. No zinc, no steel, nothing else, only copper. And the thing to know is that it has to go in vertically, so it's hanging like this, and then all the solid stuff, as it rusts, the rust is falling in the bottom of the tank, which means we need some way to suspend it up above so it hangs in the tank. If it drops into the bottom of the tank, then you have to fish around in there with a pair of really long gloves or something to get it out of there. It's not good. So what I like to do is have just a big long piece of tape like this, and always use this kind of masking tape, the kind of super sticky kind. You do not want to use the blue stuff, because that'll just, it's not made to hold up, and so it'll just fall. So basically now I've got, my plate hangs here on a piece of tape, kind of like this. And I like to twist it. I know it's a little finicky, but it actually really helps, so that my tape is to the back side of where my image is drawn, and then it'll just kind of hang there. So once you get that done, make sure you put your gloves on anytime that you're going to go over there and get close to the acid. And you want to take your plate and put it so that the image, so the drawn area faces out. And then we're just going to drop it in the tank and make sure that it's suspended all the way in the acid, so it's there, and then you can just kind of take that to the side like that. And it's now in the acid, so you can leave it in there for as long as you want. And I like to close the lid to make sure it doesn't evaporate off. We want to make sure we keep the lid closed at all times. So ferric chloride, again, is a salt, which means that in terms of toxicity, it's not a terrible thing. It's not as bad as it could be, but you don't want to get it on your skin. If you do, it's going to feel itchy, and it's going to stain. It stains the heck out of your clothes if you get it on your clothes, and it's going to feel itchy on your skin. You want to rinse that really well with water and get it off there. And we just don't want to have this stuff on your skin all the time, right? So use your gloves, use your goggles, make sure you follow all the safety rules. So we're going to leave this in there, and I'm going to demonstrate progressive bite now. But if this was aqua tint, you'd just be able to leave it in there as long as you want to. You can look at the value scale for the aqua tint to see how long certain bite times are. But the longer we leave a copper plate in the acid, the deeper the bite is going to be. So it's going to continue to bite down into that acid, or into that plate, and it's going to just make the line basically deeper, which means a darker sort of tone when you print it, whichever color ink you choose to print it in. So we've had our first stage of our progressive line etch plate in the acid for about 30 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and take that out now, and we'll kind of check it, and you'll get a chance to see what it looks like after a plate's been etched for a little while. So as I pull this out of here, you'll definitely see, as I flip it around for you, that it's covered in this kind of orangey, acid. And I'm just going to let it sit here. And the idea of this is we're going to let as much of this acid drip off into the tank as we can. We don't want to rinse any more of this down the sink than we need to. We want to dilute it a lot before we send it down the sink. So I'm going to kind of do this, and then I'm going to go ahead and just rinse it really well in the water. So I'm going to rinse it off in the sink here. You want to get all the yellow acid off of there, obviously. Off the front and the back, be careful about that. Okay, so our plate is really now ready to work on, and as you kind of look at it, you can see that we have some lines etched in there, and so it's been in there for 30 minutes, so it's pretty deep, good and solid in there. Now I'm going to go ahead and add more, and then I'm going to put it back in the acid for another 15 minutes. And that means that these lines that I started with will have been etched for 45 minutes. The new lines will have only been etched for 15. So that means the new lines I'm adding right now are going to become, they're going to be much lighter. And these lines that I've already put in there are going to be dark. They're going to be really deep bits. So again, it's about progressively etching. Some lines are shallow and lighter, some lines are deeper, and they're going to be darker tone when you wipe them up and print them. Okay, so we just took this out of the acid, and it's been in the, we have our first layer up here that's been in the acid for 45 minutes now, so it's even heavier and darker and deeper than it was before. This has been in the acid for 15 minutes, so it's a pretty lightweight kind of line. I'm going to go ahead and add one more line in here, and I'm going to etch that for 15 more minutes, which is going to mean our top layer up here has been in for an hour. This will have been in for half an hour, and this will have been in for 15 minutes. So when we print it, we should be able to see the difference between the depth of bite and kind of a progressive line etching kind of technique. Again, working from your darkest, deepest lines out to your lightest and most kind of subtle sort of lines.